Hare Krishna devotees, today is the day before Janmashtami, Krishna Janmashtami, very auspicious day. We're going to have a Bhagavad Gita class on the chapter 15. Let's do some invocation mantras. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Yasodhanandana, Rajajana Ranjana, Yasodhanandana, Rajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurunmunitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mahamanobeestam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Devamruta Swami Iti Namane Prachara Puradaksham Cha Bhaktachara Pravinata Pararthatati Karunyam Vishesharavite Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itina Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itinamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prachasta Desatarane. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srinivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Vanchakalpa Tarubhasya Krapasindhibhayeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll read the Chatursloki, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks to Arjuna, these Chaturslokis. And 10.9, Machitta Madgata Prana, Bodayantasya Paraspradam, Katayantasya Mamnityam, Dushyanti Charamanti Cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they desire greatest satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another. Tesam satate yuktanam vajitam pirtapurvakam tadami buddhi yogantam yena mamopi antite. To those who constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. Tesam evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nasayami atma bhavasto jnanadipena bhaspata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamps of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. We'll also recite Queen Kunti's prayers, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.21. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva. He's going to take birth tomorrow, right? and the pleasure of Devaki, and the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavana, and the enliverer of cows and senses. 1.8.22. Namo Pankajanaಭಾಯ, Namo Pankajamaline, Namo Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangre. My respectful wishes unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as lotus, and whose feet are engraved with the lotuses. Wonderful. We're going to start PowerPoint presentation. I'm looking at, bear with me, devotees. Wonderful. This is chapter 15, Yoga of the Supreme Person. So as we know that we talk about the Bhagavad Gita is a life's manual, both for spiritual life as well as this material life. And it talks about 5 important aspects: Ishvara, the Supreme Lord; Jiva, the living entity; Prakriti, the material nature; Kala, the time; Karma, the action reactions. These are the 5 things that addresses Bhagavad Gita, eternal literature, spoken by Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself at the Battle of Kurukshetra. So the Bhagavad Gita divided mainly into 3 sections. Section 1, chapter 1 to 6 chapters, attaining Bhagavad Bhakti through Karma Yoga. In the middle 6 chapters is 7 to 12 chapters talks about pure Bhakti Yoga. Chapter 13 to 18 chapters talks about attaining Bhakti through Jnana. So most of us are somehow or the other on the Jnana path because of our conditioning from the beginning of life. Because if you're working for somebody, you are on the Jnana path because you have to utilize your brain, right? So most of us, so this the last portion of the Bhagavad Gita section, there is 6 chapters are very important for us to have bhakti through Jnana. And there's a connection between these chapters. The 13th chapter, 1 to 2 slokas, Arjuna asked these questions about Bhagavan Sri Krishna to describe about Prakriti nature, the Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetrajnam, the field, Kshetram, the Kshetrajnam, the knower of the field, Jnanam, the knowledge, Gnayam, the object of knowledge. So the most importantly, though, these 4 of them, because Prakriti, nature, and enjoyer, Bhagavan Sri Krishna are talking about other chapters too. So these are the 4 important aspects Arjuna wanted to know. This is not like academic interest. He really wants to know what Bhagavan Sri Krishna's world view. This is through Sankhya knowledge. And here, there's a difference between Sankhya and the science. As we discussed, science is based on our comfort, increasing our comfort. Like the cell phone is technology, refrigerator, satellites, these are all comfort through the science, right? And the Sankhya is the comfort brings you raga, which is bondage. Sankhya is opposite. This is a spiritual knowledge which gives you vairagya on the material platform, whereas our devotional service on the spiritual platform. So this is timely as well as timeless knowledge. So what we learn through Sankhya, spiritual knowledge, is attitude of looking at the world through Bhagavan Sri Krishna's lens. So that is the key in there. So chapter 13, 6 to 7 verses, Sankhya philosophy was discussed in a nutshell, talks about Pancha Mahabhutas, 5 senses, working senses as described on the screen, sense objects, and 4 subtle things. There's the mind, intelligence, and false ego. This is subtle matter. And also, importantly, Bhagavan Sri Krishna here introduces unmanifested 3 modes of material nature. So that is what the subsequently in the 13th chapter talks about. In the 14th chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna elaborates. And also there is a reference in 15th chapter. So it's very important to know that the 3 modes of material nature, these 24 elements, the Kshetrajna and Paramatma as a super soul, Bhagavan Sri Krishna eternally present with the living entities as a super soul. That is our compassion. And the 3 modes of connections that we were been talking about in 14th chapter. So this is the 6 concepts of bedrocks of philosophy of Sankhya. And the modes are also foundational for Sankhya. So Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains the modes to deepen the Arjuna's understanding of Sankhya, where Arjuna can see the world through the Krishna's vision or the lens. This is very important aspect that we need to learn. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, we discussed about we'll briefly talk about the link between chapter 13 and 14 here. Also, there is one 8 to 12. There are 20 processes of knowledge, what Sri Krishna talks about. Out of them, the Alvya Vicharani Bhakti through unalloyed process is the key aspect. And how do you, briefly, when you discuss here, the 20 different processes is what Sri Krishna talks about the number 1, humility, pridelessness, number 3, nonviolence, number 4, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master. That is the key in the material world. Approaching a pure devotee is the key. And cleanliness, steadiness, 9, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, perception of the evil, birth, death, old age, disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement of matter, and even-mindedness amidst the pleasant and unpleasant events, and the 16, constant unalloyed devotional service, 17, aspiring to live in solitary places, 18, detachment from the general mass of people, and accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for absolute truth. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna declares in these verses in 13th chapter, all these are declared as knowledge. Everything else that we run into on this material world is not knowledge. That is ignorance. So that shows that we are immersed among the ignorance in this material world. So how do you have true knowledge? By approaching bona fide spiritual master, like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who translated this Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the other devotees, pure devotees in ISKCON, they're all bona fide spiritual masters that one can approach to learn what is the constant and unalloyed devotional service, and how do we dovetail ourselves into Bhagavan Sri Krishna's vision. That is the essence of life. And here, 13 point 22, Bhagavan Krishna introduces Purusha Prakritim Stohi Bhungte Prakritim Jan Guna Karana Guna Sangasya Sad Asad Janme Yonishu. This is very important verse. We can study this a little bit as introduction to three more. The living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with the good and evil among various species. So the material life is temporary, whereas spiritual life is eternal. So the body evolves through different, soul evolves through different bodies until to the point where comes as a human life and have a discussion about the spiritual knowledge, just like how we are having. And this verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrates from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter as the soul transmigrates, just like body changes from one dress, old, dilapidated dress, get a new dress. That's how the body, when they get old, diseased, about to die, the soul takes another body. So this transmigration is due to material attachment through the three modes. And Prabhupada discusses in the purport in this verse 1322 how he put in touch with different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three modes and become situated in transcendental position. And that is called Krishna consciousness. If one is not in the Krishna consciousness, that is given that he is bound, eternally bound to three modes of material nature. So we need to have that change. That change can be affected by hearing from authoritative source. So the number one thing for the change for the soul to happen is the hearing. Hearing what? From authoritative source. Just like we are learning from Srila Prabhupada's authoritative source. He's a pure devotee. The best example is Arjuna also hearing the signs of God from Krishna himself directly in this battle of Kurukshetra, where he had a nervous breakdown, that you don't want to participate in fighting, which is his dharma. Dharma is just like water is liquid, normal temperature. That is water is dharma. Salt is salty taste. That is salt dharma. Same way, Arjuna's dharma as a Kshatriya is to fight, but he don't want to fight. He had a nervous breakdown. But he had a pleasure of Bhagavan Sri Krishna in front of him talking about this knowledge. Right? So once you understand gradually this knowledge, and you would have a true knowledge, that's how Arjuna had a true knowledge. From ignorance, he changed to true knowledge. So due to this desire to lord it over the material nature, that is what the key. The soul is put into such undesirable circumstances. Under influence of material desires, sometimes it became demigod because of pious activities. As a human life, it can go to higher planetary systems or come down lower planetary, lower animal life like beast, bird, worm, or a bug, or even lower lives like rakshasas, demons, etc. So this is a choice-based. We all have a free will, little bit of free will. So if we use it properly, develop true knowledge, just like Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about in prayer verses, 20 different processes of knowledge. And that is the knowledge that will elevate one. So in chapter 14, Bhagavan Sri Krishna gives metaphor, this how the soul is bondage to these three modes, which is soul is through consciousness pulled as a ropes, right? And then bound to sattva, rajas, tamo. There is mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And he's also had another analogy Prabhupada gives like a gear. Car goes either forward, a reverse gear, or a driving mode, right? This mode takes the soul into that aspect. For example, there was a devotee giving a nice example that our body, our soul is conditioned by the subtle body and the gross element, gross body. This all grouped around our mind and subtle body. So as a human, we have certain characteristics based upon which modes you are in. So towards the end of life, if you are not in Suddha Sattva, above these three modes in Krishna consciousness, what happens? Your subtle body is taken, automatically pulled to the different living entity based upon your consciousness at the time. It is automatically pulled, your consciousness. So automatically your soul, which is bound in this consciousness, is dragged to different life. So our aim is to cut out that chain of bondage, to release through pure unaliened devotional service. This is a very good reference in Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto 25:15, where Kapila Muni, Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself is another avatara, Kapila Muni, talks beautifully about this Sankhya philosophy to his mother, Devahuti, when she asks certain questions about Sankhya philosophy. So this verse, Chetaha kalau asya bhangaya muktaye che atmano matam guneshu saktam bhangaya ratham va pumse muktaye. So Prabhupada translates, the stage in which the consciousness of living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. So our soul, by virtue of his consciousness, is attracted to three modes. That's called conditional life. But when the same consciousness is attached to Supreme Personality of Godhead, to unalloyed pure devotional service, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation, which is Krishna consciousness. What a beautiful verse. And then 1426 is the ultimate verse in the 14th chapter. Mam chayo vibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityatyam brahma bhuvaya kalpate. Here Prabhupada translates, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of material nature, and thus comes to the Brahman level of Brahman, which is, Brahman is the platform of pure soul, and then with pure unaliened devotional service, you can attain Krishna consciousness. Here, chapter 15. So the smallest chapter in Bhagavad Gita out of all the chapters, only 20 verses, but very important. This yoga of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Yoga. So verses 1 to verses 5 describes the process of freeing oneself from this weakness of heart, which is the consciousness of binding to material nature. And 6 to 20 verses discusses the Purushottama Yoga. Good. The weakness of heart is this desire to the lord over material nature. That automatically disassociates from avyabhichara bhakti, pure unaliened service. So increases the propensity to lord over material nature, so that attachment, possession of matter develops. Whereas opposite, if you develop pure unaliened devotional service by taking shelter of pure devotees, in ISKCON there are a lot of pure devotees, and taking shelter, chanting 16 at least minimum 16 rounds of Mahamantra as founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada dictated. For every devotee, chant daily. That's the fundamental thing, chanting and listening. And there are four regulated principles followed. One is no meat eating, no illicit sex, sex outside of marriage, no gambling, no intoxication whatsoever, mind-altering intoxication. These are four regulated principles. These four regulated principles bring someone to the human platform. That is a neutral platform. So from there, we can easily grow by chanting, purify our consciousness. Otherwise, if you're not following the four regulated principles, you are below the human platform. Then still you chant, Prabhupada says, attentively daily, and ask Krishna to purify. So Krishna would give you the right, because 1515 will learn he is in the everyone's heart as a super soul. He gives the knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance, and ask for that knowledge. And then associating the devotee. So this is also very key. In addition to chanting four regulated principles, that are associated with the devotees, like Vaishnavas, just like this is one of the association through Zoom we are having. And then 15.1, here, Prabhupada translates this verse, the Supreme Person of Godhead said, it is said that there is unperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and branches downwards, and whose leaves are in the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. This is a metaphor from Bhagavan Sri Krishna opens up with this chapter. First verse. The second verse, the branches of this tree extends downwards and upwards, nourished by the three modes of material nature. Look at that. So how these branches are nourished by three modes of material nature? Just like we learned from previous chapters, Bhagavan Sri Krishna talking about this. The twigs are the objects of senses. This tree also has roots down growing, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So this verses 3 and 4, the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. This is the metaphorical. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, and where its foundation is. But with the determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the uproot weapons of detachment. How that can happen? Through attachment to the unalloyed devotional service, by the process we discussed about, by chanting daily, four regulated principles associating with devotees, Vaishnavas. Therefore, one must seek that place from which, having gone, no one returns, and there surrender to the Supreme Person of Godhead, from whom everything began, from whom everything has extended since the time of memorial. So Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about this Goloka, introduces here. So once you go to Goloka, there's no return. So 15.5, those who are free from the false prestige, illusion, false association, who understands the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness, distress, and who are unbewildered, know how to surrender to Supreme Person, attain that eternal kingdom. That is the pathway. Lord Shri Krishna clearly spells that out here by himself. 15.6, that supreme abode of mind, and he's giving you illustration of how that supreme abode of mind here is, spilling the beans, is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. That is self-illuminating by Krishna's energy. Uh, that's the Brahma Jyoti energy. It is self-illuminated. Goloka Vrindavan. 15.7. The living entities in this conditioned world, are my eternal fragmental parts. So we are his eternal fragmental part, but we are become nidyabaddhas because of our association with three modes of material nature, because of our tendency to lord it over material nature. Due to this conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind, five senses, touch, smell, right? All these five senses, which including mind. Bhagavan Krishna clearly spells it out. That's the eighth verse. We're going to talk about eighth verse here. Sariram yad avapnoti echa api putramatisvaraha gratitvaitani samyati vair gandha ivasayad. Sariram, the body, yat as, avapnoti gets, yat, yeah, as, cha api also, utkramati gives up, isvaraha, the Lord of the body, gritva taking, ethani all these, samyati goes away, vayu the air, gandhan smells, iva like, asyat from their sources. Translation. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of the life from one body to another. Carries from one with the different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aroma. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Very beautiful analogy. How air is carried through the aroma, a scent of a rose carried through the air from a distance. You will know, you will go into the garden, oh, this rose flower, oh, there's jasmine, by the pure aroma. So like that, our soul is carried away from one body to another body through subtle body. So purport Prabhupada says, here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change this body to a higher grade. And if he likes, he can move to a lower class. A minute dependence is here. The change in his body undergoes depends upon him or her. So eventually that independence, at the same time now you are in this class, you could be in some other class, some other place. So, but it be a choice, you got yourself in this class. And that's what Prabhupada describing in this purport, beautiful purport. At the time of death, if you make these little choices daily, and they all accumulates towards the time of death, this consciousness he has created will carry him to the next body. If he has a pure Krishna consciousness, he doesn't go to the next body, he goes to Goloka. Otherwise, towards the end of life, he has undesired, unfulfilled desires, he take the next body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or a dog, because some people, one devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what is wrong in loving cat? And Prabhupada says, Tadastu. That means you could be cat next life or dog. And then you have to take more lives. Your soul has to migrate, eventually come to the human life. Right? The human life, coming to human life is very rare. And he is sure to change to cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on good, godly qualities, like pious qualities, he will go to higher planets like a demigod. That's also material, but a higher comforts. So, and if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka or Goloka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. Just like how Krishna introduced in the previous verse, this is the Krishna Loka self-eliminated. He's going to talk about it a little more. Purport, continuation. It is the false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. Some of the big professors, big scholars had a conversation with Prabhupada when he was here on this planet and having discussions with these people. And their philosophy is when we die, everything is finished. Whereas Bhagavan Sri Krishna clearly talks about this individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another. And his present body and present activities are background of his next body. That is a very, very important sentence. So whatever you're doing, this is a background. You are making the next body on a daily basis, culminating to the death. So one gets a different body according to his karma, and he has to quit his body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body called karsati, or struggle for existence. That's beautifully Prabhupada describes in there, right? What is the struggle for existence? Karsati, the bondage to this material world, that is karsati, struggle for existence. And next verse, 15.9. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eyes, tongue, nose, sense of touch, which are grouped about in the mind. He thus enjoys particular set of sense objects. Here in this Prabhupada, in this purport, he talks about if you take cat body and you have those senses, if you take dog's body, you have a sense of smell is high, and you have those qualities, propensities, just like you have that dharma. Just like we had a prior analogy, salt has salt taste dharma, and honey has, that is his dharma. Same way air has his dharma. So everything has its own dharma. So that's 5.9, 5.10, 15.10, sorry. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sorts of body he enjoys under the spell of modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in the knowledge can see all this. And that's exactly what Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about. All of these 20 processes is knowledge, right? And how do you know this 20 process of knowledge? By listening to the authorities. Bhagavan Krishna himself and Sri Prabhupada has translated a beautiful spiritual literatures, Vedic literatures, starting from Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this is the knowledge. Once you know the knowledge, and you are empowered applying that knowledge. So 15.11 of the Supreme Person, Yoga of Supreme Person, the endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. So endeavoring transcendentalist is some in Suddha Sattva, that is above pure goodness. So when we talked about if you are having these 4 regulated principles, 16 rounds of chanting, you are on that normal neutral platform. There is more of goodness, ignorance, and passion, right? Probably in neutral state. And if you go more and more of chanting, you go to pure state. And more of higher associating with devotees, you go into and further stage called transcendental stage. It's just like plane taking to the air from the airport. Airport is more of goodness. Prabhupada gives an analogy. And from airport, you can take plane, go to the higher level. There's more of pure goodness. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see that what is taking place, though they may try. And 15:12, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. See beautifully. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. So we are inundated with Krishna's energy. So 13th verse in 15th chapter, I entered each planet, and by my energy, they stay in orbit. Prabhupada clearly talks about in the purport, scientists talks about gravity, right? What is the gravity? That is Krishna's energy. Because if you don't have knowledge, you don't understand that. So it becomes the moon and thereby supplying the juices for life of life to all vegetables. How vegetables have juices, nourishing juices? By the moon. By the sun, you get chlorophyll, all of those, but the moon makes the nice juices. So that is Krishna's energy, both sun and the moon. 15th verse. I am the fire of digestion. Not only that, whatever you eat, it is being digested in the bodies of all living entities. And I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. What are the 4 kinds of foodstuffs we talked about? Is that some you drink, some you chew, some you lick, and some you suck. So, and his digestive force for all of them comes from Krishna. So if you're living, you're digesting your food, that's Krishna's energy. And 15:15, this is the pinnacle verse where Bhagavan Krishna talks about, spells it out clearly. I am seated in everyone's heart as a super soul, right? And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So why forgetfulness? Because you have desires and you don't want this spiritual knowledge. So obviously, that's your choice. But once Shri Krishna gives you, so that's the forgetfulness. If you want to forget him. And if you are a big atheist, and that can also happen. Because Bhagavan Shri Krishna is not a conditional father. He's the ever-loving, patiently waiting, a loving father. Or you can relate to him in that way, or as a friend, just like Arjuna relating in that way. So he is eternally there, giving you freedom, that inch of freedom for you to choose whatever you want. So this is the beautiful verse 15. And the next 16, there are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and infallible. In the material world, every living entity is infallible. That means you birth, you grow, reproduce, and die. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible because they're eternal. They're eternally liberated. They are parts and parcel of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, serving him in this constitutional position. Besides these 2, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the 3 molds and maintaining them. For why? For our sake, because we want to get away from the spiritual world, want to have lord it over, and Bhagavan Shri Krishna, by his mercy, is created all this material world, is maintaining it as well. Just like Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy. Dad or mother tells the child not to go and do some, for example, a fan, right? Prabhupada gives an example. The olden days fan, so a child want to go and put the finger in the fan. But father said, no, son, that's going to hurt your finger. But kid just keep asking about the same thing. So one day, dad take out the plug, and then when the fan is coming down slowly, ask child, go and put the finger now. And then that hurt. Then a kid knows, oh yes, this is hurting. That's why my father is telling me not to put the finger. Just like that, Bhagavan Shri Krishna wanted to be in the spiritual world, but this is you wanted to come here. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna comes to as a ever-loving father, as super soul, waiting patiently when your soul turned to supreme soul. Just like two birds are sitting in a tree. One of the Upanishads talks about one bird is busy in eating the fruit, another bird is looking at the fruit. Super soul looking at the individual soul, patiently waiting. And 15:18. So because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as Supreme Person. See, Bhagavan Sri Krishna tells himself, just like some people get a negative taste to it. Oh, why is Krishna saying, I'm the supreme, blah, blah. Because he's telling as he has himself, as he is. Just like, if, for example, a president of a country says, I'm a president, I have all these authorities. Yes, that's true. He's not boasting. That's his, but if the president wants to come and help you, that is his that you take it as a mercy. So not thinking in other words, right? So, and whoever knows me, Bhagavan Shri Krishna very gracefully talks about in 19th verse, whoever knows me as Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in the devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So if you know Bhagavan Shri Krishna, you know everything because everything comes from him. So, and the 15:20, this is the last verse in this chapter. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures. O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. That's the beauty. So this is the yoga of the Supreme. If you know yoga of the Supreme, you would know everything because everything comes from Supreme. Because even the gravity, whatever you're talking about gravity, in the previous verse you heard, he himself comes and suspending, just like all these planetary systems in his, this is this spark of his splendor. All the material universes that you're seeing is a spark of his splendor. You don't have to do anything to have this maintenance. It's part of his energy. He has all these things taken care of. But when Sri Krishna's original nature is all attractive. Krishna means all attractive. And he is in the Golok of Vrindavan, eternally being all attracted by Srimati Radharani, is the eternal consort. She is the primary pure devotee. So we had to take shelter of her through its expansion, primary expansion called Balaram. Balaram is the first expansion of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Balaram is, we had a Balaram Jayanti a week ago. We learned from there. Balaram serves, his mood is serving Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So if you know Balaram, so you know how to serve Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So he serves Bhagavan Shri Krishna in 5 rasas, as a neutral, as a Santarasa, as a friend, as a Vatsalya rasa, as a conjugal love, as a conjugal, as a Srimati Radharani's sister. That is his mood, serving Bhagavan Sri Krishna and Radharani. So, and what is the Balaram's expansion is Nitai. In this 500 years ago, Nitai came as Balaram. Balaram came as Nitai and leading us to uh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Nitai is leading us to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Srimati Radharani mood. And how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eventually lead you Radha and Krishna. That is our shortcut shelter. And we are hearing another class today. So for us to easily approach Bhagavan Sri Krishna in this Guru and Gauranga, our Guru leads us to Adi Guru, Nityananda, who leads us to Bhagavan Sri Krishna through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through Radharani. Radharani is the topmost devotee. And when Radharani recommends you to Krishna, you're set. You're going to Golok Vrindavan. How do that happen? Starting from Prabhupada gave this Avyapachari Bhakti, dovetailing your life to Bhakti Yoga. How do you do that? Chanting daily. Chanting is the key because out of all the five senses, one sense, a very heightened sense is listening. By chanting, you listen. Right? Chanting the Maha Mantra, just like I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare through this bead bag, and we have beads. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One round is 108 verses. So you chant minimum one round starting daily. And then when you start one round, you keep up with the daily and slowly increase it. Right? And daily, that is an important, one of the primary fundamental Bhakti Yoga practices chanting. Chanting Mahamantra. When do you chant? Brahma Muhurta. Brahma Muhurta is a mode of goodness time, 1.5 hours before sunrise. That's where everybody, that's where the pure time, even the material world, top CEOs, they wake up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, start their day because there's a day where nothing is disturbed. Their mind is focused better. And that's where we need to get our mind Krishna's energy. So start your day by chanting through Krishna's energy, bringing Krishna's energy, aligning your soul, Krishna, Supreme Soul, and then following 4 regulated principles. Right? We again talked about 4 regulated principles: no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication whatsoever, anything that alters your mind, and associating pure devotees, associating daily. And tomorrow is the biggest association for the entire year, called Janmashtami. So tomorrow there's a lot of activities. If anybody wants to come to temple, help in his service, that is it. You will get more and more credits, spiritual credits. So coming to the temple any part of the day and the evening and helping, associating with Vaishnavas, devotees, this all improves, brings more spiritual credits towards the Bhakti Yoga. So association creed is the key. And every evening we have Bhagavad Gita class like this. And also in the morning we have Srimad Bhagavatam class, but between 7:45 to 8:30 a.m. So these are the association times, either to online or coming, particularly Bhagavan Sri Krishna Janmashtami day, you need to come to temple. ISKCON temple is Vatsika Avenue. And also, if you are living in a different areas, they have temples, ISKCON temples. So there are ISKCON temples all over the world. So this is where you will cultivate your knowledge, just like Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about in the 13th chapter. What is the knowledge? Now, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is the knowledge. 15. So if you know Bhagavan Sri Krishna, you know the perfect knowledge. And how do you know that perfect knowledge? Through association. And also taking shelter of pure devotee. With that, devotees, it's very nice to have you share my little bit of whatever knowledge I shared with you. This is all borrowed from Srila Prabhupada to all the Vaishnava parampara and the gurus and other Vaishnavas like you. There's nothing comes from this. Is not my knowledge. It's all borrowed knowledge. But if there was any mistakes, I have done anything that was not palatable to you, your understanding of this nature, this spiritual knowledge, is all my faults. Please forgive me, and I will continue to want to grow in the spiritual bhakti. Please bless me. With that, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're going to see you tomorrow, Janmashtami at Rukmini Dwarkadish Temple in Watsika, Los Angeles. Hare Krishna.